What if your greatest enemy was a part of you? And what if it wasn't trying to hurt you, but guide you? Every fear you avoid, every flaw you hide, every emotion you suppress, they're not mistakes, they're messages. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the hidden self that holds your deepest pain and your greatest power. And today, we're not just going to understand it, we're going to meet it. This isn't just an idea or theory to think about. It's about uncovering important truths that can change your life. By the end of this journey, you'll not only understand what your shadow is, but also how it holds the key to your purpose, your potential, and your freedom. The last revelation we'll uncover might be the most powerful and life-changing of all. Carl Jung, a key figure in psychology, thought that the shadow is the hidden part of ourselves that we reject or ignore. It includes all the traits, desires, and aspects of our personality that we find unacceptable or embarrassing. But surprisingly, this very shadow holds the potential for our greatest strengths and holds the key to a meaningful life. Think about it. How often do we avoid certain thoughts or actions because they make us uneasy? How often do we criticize others for qualities we secretly see in ourselves? If you've ever had a strong reaction to someone else's behavior, it might be because they've touched a part of your own shadow. Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." The shadow isn't just about darkness, it's about untapped potential. It's the energy we hide because we're too scared or ashamed to face it. Take a moment and think about your own life. Are there parts of yourself that you try to keep hidden from others, or even from yourself? Maybe it's a fear of failing, deep anger, or jealousy. It could be a desire or passion you've told yourself is impossible or wrong. What if these parts of yourself aren't things to get rid of, but messages waiting to be understood, like the girl who hated her anger until she realized it was protecting her boundaries, or the man who feared his sadness until he saw it was the part of him still capable of love. Carl Jung believed that by facing our shadow, we can bring it into our conscious mind, which leads to what he called individuation, the journey to becoming whole. This process isn't simple. It takes bravery, honesty, and a readiness to embrace the unknown, but the benefits are beyond measure. Jung saw individuation as the process of discovering who you truly are, not just the face you show the world, but your full, real self that includes both your strengths and your weaknesses. He believed that we grow the most, not by rejecting our shadow, but by accepting it. Think about this. Every hero in stories and myths has to face their own darkness. Take the Greek hero Hercules, for example, who had to deal with not just physical monsters, but also his own anger and flaws. Or Luke Skywalker from Star Wars, who had to face the darkness inside himself before he could become a true Jedi. These tales reflect our own journeys in life. The real question is, are you ready to take that first step? Are you willing to look at the parts of yourself you've been avoiding and ask, what lessons do you have for me? Jung's teachings tell us that our shadow isn't an enemy, but a guide. It speaks to us through our dreams, our fears, and even the relationships we have. Have you ever had a dream that kept repeating, or felt drawn to a person or idea in a way you can't explain? These might be signs that your shadow is trying to tell you something. The first step in working with your shadow is awareness. Pay attention to the feelings and reactions that seem too strong or out of place. These are often clues to parts of yourself that you've kept hidden. Once you notice these traits, the next step is acceptance. This doesn't mean acting on every urge or giving in to every wish. It means recognizing these parts of yourself without judgment and understanding their place in your life. Imagine how freeing it would be to stop fearing your imperfections and instead see them as stepping stones for growth. Picture how much more real and confident you could feel by accepting all parts of yourself. In the next sections, we'll explore in more detail how you can recognize and embrace your shadow. We'll uncover simple steps to transform what feels like darkness into light and show you how this acceptance can guide you to your life's true purpose. And remember, the most powerful discovery is yet to come. Stick with us, because by the end of this journey, you'll have a map not just for understanding your shadow, but also for using it to lead you to your destiny. Let's continue exploring the depths of your inner world and discover the amazing potential hidden inside you. Let's take a closer look at the mysterious shadow and understand how recognizing this hidden side of yourself can unlock not only your purpose, but also a deep sense of peace within. The shadow shows up in many different ways. It might appear in our actions, our relationships, or especially in our reactions. Have you ever had a strong emotional response and later wondered why you reacted so intensely? That moment when emotions take over reason is often when your shadow is trying to make itself known. But why does the shadow have such an effect on us? Jung believed it's because the shadow remains hidden in our unconscious. The more we push away or ignore certain parts of ourselves, the stronger they become. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The harder you try to keep it down, the more it forces its way up when you can't hold it anymore. Now think about this. If you could bring that hidden part of yourself into the open and understand where it comes from, how much more control would you have over your life? How much more freedom would you feel? One powerful way to explore the shadow is through projection. Jung said that when we deny parts of ourselves, we often see those traits in others, which causes our reactions to them to be stronger. For example, if you struggle with feeling unworthy, you might criticize people who seem overly confident or avoid those who are good at things that make you feel insecure. This isn't just a strange habit of the mind. It's like looking into a mirror. The world reflects back to us the parts of ourselves that we haven't yet accepted. Jung explained it like this: knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. Take a moment to think about this. Is there someone in your life who causes you to react emotionally? Maybe it's a colleague, a friend, or a family member. Instead of focusing on their actions, ask yourself, what does this reaction say about me? What part of my shadow am I seeing in them? This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about learning more about who you are. Each time you project something onto others, it's an opportunity to understand and bring that part of yourself into the light. Often, the parts of ourselves we hide are linked to our special talents and passions. For instance, someone who hides their creativity out of fear of failing might find that accepting this part of themselves helps them discover their true calling. Jung believed that our purpose isn't something we find on the outside. It's something we uncover from within. It's about being true to who we really are, including both the light and the shadow. As Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But how do we start this process of aligning with our true self? It begins with asking ourselves deep questions. What do I fear most about myself? What parts of me have I been told are unacceptable? What dreams or passions have I let go of because I thought they weren't good enough or too unrealistic? Write these questions down and take some time to think about them. You might be surprised by what comes up when you allow your shadow to speak. One great way to do shadow work is through journaling. Jung kept detailed journals to explore his unconscious mind. He often encouraged people to write about their dreams, since dreams are a direct way to connect with our unconscious thoughts. When you look at your dreams, whether it's a simple phrase like, "I love you," or something that happened, pay attention to repeating symbols or themes. Ask yourself, what might my unconscious mind be trying to tell me? Now think about how powerful it can be to accept and blend your shadow. Picture a painter who refuses to use any dark colors in their art. While their work may still be beautiful, it lacks the depth and contrast that the darker shades could bring. When we accept our shadow, we become like that artist who uses every color in the palette, light and dark, to make something truly meaningful. Integrating your shadow doesn't mean acting on every dark thought or letting it control you. It's about understanding and accepting these parts of yourself as a natural part of being human. This acceptance creates more kindness, not only for yourself, but also for others. You start to realize that everyone has their own shadow, and recognizing this shared experience helps us feel more connected to one another. The path to accepting your shadow isn't something you do just once. It's a lifelong journey. It takes time, bravery, and a commitment to growing as a person. But the rewards are huge. You gain clarity on your true purpose, a deeper sense of peace inside, and the ability to live in a more genuine way. And here's something important to consider. Your purpose is not just about you. Jung believed that as we become our true selves, we also contribute to the collective unconscious, the shared human experience. By confronting your shadow and being true to who you really are, you don't just change your own life, you inspire and lift up those around you too. In the next section, we'll look at the practical ways you can bring your shadow into your everyday life. We'll talk about how accepting this hidden side of yourself can improve your relationships, boost your creativity, and help you live a life that feels truly in tune with who you really are. The most powerful realization is still ahead. Stick with us as we uncover the final revelation about your shadow and how it holds the secret to your future. As we dive deeper into the world of Jung's ideas, let's focus on how you can apply the lessons of shadow work in your daily life. Understanding your shadow is a great first step, but real change happens when you integrate it. This is where awareness meets action, the point where you begin to bring your hidden parts into your whole self. One of the first steps in this journey is practicing radical self-honesty. This means looking at yourself without any filters or excuses. It takes bravery to admit things like, "Yes, I feel jealous," or "Yes, sometimes I judge others unfairly." But here's the important part. Being honest with yourself isn't about judging yourself. It's about being aware. Think of it like cleaning up a messy room. You can't organize or use the space until you first recognize that it's messy. Similarly, you can't integrate your shadow until you acknowledge that it's there. A helpful way to start practicing this is by noticing what triggers your emotions. The next time you have a strong emotional response, whether it's anger, fear, or even excessive admiration, pause for a moment and ask yourself, why am I reacting like this? What does this situation reveal about me? Is there a part of myself that I'm projecting onto this person or situation? For example, if you get upset by someone who seems overly confident, ask yourself if that irritation comes from a part of you that feels insecure, or maybe their confidence is reminding you of a trait you've pushed aside, your own desire to be in the spotlight. This process of asking yourself tough questions can feel uncomfortable at first. It might be easy to want to blame others or protect yourself from the truth. But remember, the purpose isn't to criticize yourself. It's to understand yourself better. Every emotional reaction is a chance to get to know yourself more deeply. Once you start noticing parts of your shadow, the next step is to have a conversation with it. Jung often encouraged people to think of their shadow as if it were a separate being. This might sound strange, but it helps you better understand the hidden parts of yourself. Picture sitting down with your shadow and asking it questions like, why do you feel this way? What are you trying to protect me from? What do you need from me to feel seen and understood? This conversation can happen through writing in a journal, meditating, or using your imagination. The goal is to make a space where your shadow feels recognized and heard. Keep in mind, your shadow isn't something against you. It's a part of you that has been trying to help or protect you in its own way, even if it hasn't always worked. For many, this process brings surprising insights you might realize that a fear you've had for years comes from something that happened in childhood, or that something you thought was a flaw is actually a hidden strength ready to be used. Now, let's look at how this deeper understanding of yourself can affect your relationships. The shadow doesn't just affect how you feel inside, it also shapes how you interact with others. Often, unresolved parts of your shadow show up as arguments or tension in relationships. Have you ever found yourself fighting with someone over the same thing again and again? Or maybe you've noticed a pattern, like always attracting the same kind of partner or facing similar problems with different people. Jung believed that relationships act as mirrors, reflecting parts of ourselves that we often don't see or refuse to acknowledge. When you feel triggered by someone, whether it's anger, frustration, or discomfort, it's often because they represent a trait or behavior that resonates with your own shadow. This might be something within you that you've rejected or never fully accepted. For instance, someone's arrogance may trigger feelings of insecurity in you, or another person's sensitivity may shine a light on your own unacknowledged vulnerability. By recognizing these triggers as mirrors, you can begin to shift your perspective. Instead of reacting with blame or resentment towards the other person, pause and ask yourself, what is this situation teaching me about myself? This question doesn't just lead to self-awareness, it opens the door to transformation. Instead of continuing the cycle of conflict, you turn it into an opportunity for personal growth. This shift in perspective allows you to break free from the patterns of judgment and defensiveness. By becoming more aware of your own shadows, you develop greater compassion for both yourself and others. It also fosters a deeper understanding of why you react the way you do, and helps you recognize that everyone carries their own shadows. Rather than seeing others as obstacles, you begin to see them as teachers, offering insights into aspects of yourself you may have neglected or avoided. You learn to embrace both your light and dark sides, realizing that they are both integral parts of who you are. But let's take this a step further. How can embracing your shadow enhance your creativity and purpose? Jung didn't see the shadow as just a dark container for negative traits. He argued that it also holds untapped potential. The very energy you use to suppress your shadow, to hide, deny, or fight against it, can be redirected into something powerful and creative. When you stop running from the parts of yourself you don't like, you unlock a wellspring of energy that can fuel your passions and pursuits. For example, a suppressed anger could become the fire behind your advocacy for social justice or activism. A hidden desire for attention might propel you into the world of artistic expression or public speaking. When you stop pushing these parts away, you no longer have to waste your energy fighting yourself. You reclaim it and redirect it into areas of life that align with your authentic self. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming all of you, even the parts you swore you had buried. This process of integrating the shadow can unleash the true force of your creativity and purpose. Think about the great artists, writers, and leaders throughout history. Their work often reveals a deep engagement with their own shadows, those parts of themselves they didn't hide, but rather embraced and made a part of their creative expression. Take Frida Kahlo, for instance. Her paintings were not just works of art, they were windows into her soul, unflinching in their honesty about pain, identity, and the complexity of being human. Kahlo didn't shy away from her pain. Instead, she allowed it to fuel her artistic expression, creating images that continue to resonate with people today. Similarly, Martin Luther King Jr. channeled his anger at the injustice of racial inequality into a movement that changed the course of history. He didn't let his anger fester and destroy him. He transformed it into something greater, a powerful force for societal change. In the same way, when you face and integrate your own shadow, you open the door to a well of untapped potential. You stop seeing parts of yourself as flaws and begin to see them as the raw material for creating something new and meaningful. When you stop running from your shadow, you allow yourself to stand in your full power, embracing both the light and the dark, and channeling that energy into your creative endeavors and your life's purpose. The most powerful and impactful people in history didn't shy away from their shadow. They embodied it, transformed it, and used it to change the world around them. And you can do the same. Jung saw creativity as a key to becoming whole. He believed that by engaging in creative activities like drawing, writing, or solving problems, we can tap into parts of our unconscious mind, including our shadow. Now, think about your own life. Are there dreams or projects you've put aside because they felt too risky or uncomfortable? What if those were the very things that express who you truly are, waiting to be brought out? As you start to understand and accept your shadow, you'll notice something shifting inside you. The traits and feelings that once felt overwhelming or shameful will start to feel like sources of strength and wisdom. You'll begin to live more genuinely, with greater confidence and a clearer sense of purpose. In the next section, we'll reveal the most powerful truth about your shadow and how embracing it can lead to deep transformation, not just for you, but for the world around you. Stick with us as we uncover this final insight that will tie everything together and light the way to your highest potential. As we reach the end of this journey, let's take a moment to reflect on the importance of what we've discovered. The shadow, which we often fear or hide, isn't something to avoid. It's a gift waiting to be uncovered. It holds the key to our true selves, our creativity, and ultimately our life's purpose. But what does it really mean to fully accept your shadow? And how can this integration change not only your inner world, but also the way you live your life? To understand this, we must first face a truth Jung pointed out. We can't become whole by rejecting parts of ourselves. True wholeness comes from embracing every part of who we are, finding harmony between all of it. Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This is what shadow work is about, not denying the dark parts of ourselves, but understanding them, accepting them, and using them to grow. So, how do you make the darkness conscious? One powerful way is through vulnerability. When you openly face and acknowledge your fears, insecurities, and flaws, you take away their power over you. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It's a form of strength. It's the courage to say, "This is who I am, and I'm okay just as I am." Think about your relationships. How often do we hide parts of ourselves, only showing the things we think others will like or accept? While this is natural, it creates a barrier between us and true connection. When you embrace your shadow, you allow yourself to be fully seen, giving others the chance to love and accept you for who you really are. This kind of openness is powerful. It draws people closer, builds trust, and creates deeper, more meaningful relationships. When you begin to integrate your shadow, something remarkable happens. You stop being at war with yourself. All the parts of you that you once rejected, feared, or avoided are no longer sources of internal conflict. Instead, they become integrated aspects of your whole being. This inner peace doesn't just stay within you. It begins to radiate outward, influencing how you handle everything in your life. You approach challenges with calm confidence, opportunities with openness, and even your purpose with a sense of clarity and direction. Instead of feeling fragmented, like a puzzle missing pieces, you feel whole and complete. And when you operate from a place of wholeness, everything around you begins to align. You're no longer driven by the need to fight or prove yourself. Instead, you act from a deep, grounded place of understanding and acceptance. Now, let's explore what this means when it comes to purpose. So many people go through life searching for meaning, believing that purpose is something they need to find externally, like a hidden treasure buried somewhere in the world. But Jung teaches us something profoundly different. Purpose isn't found out there. It comes from within. Your purpose is the natural result of aligning with your true self, and that includes embracing your shadow. Think about it. Your purpose is not just the job you do or the role you play in life. It's who you are at your core. It's a unique combination of your strengths, your passions, and even your struggles. And yes, your shadow, those darker, hidden parts of yourself, is an essential part of that equation. Rather than being an obstacle, the shadow is a guide. For example, someone who has struggled with feelings of unworthiness might find their purpose in helping others see their own worth. Or someone who has dealt with anger and frustration could channel that energy into advocating for justice. In this way, your wounds don't define you. They guide you toward a deeper sense of wisdom and purpose. Your pain has the potential to become your power. Jung's most profound insight, however, is that integrating the shadow doesn't just transform the individual. It has the potential to transform the world. When you confront your own darkness, you gain a deep sense of compassion, understanding, and empathy. You no longer see your struggles as isolated incidents. You recognize that your pain, your fear, your insecurities, and your doubts are part of the shared human experience. This realization allows you to connect with others in a more profound way. It helps you see beyond surface-level differences and recognize the common thread of humanity that ties us all together. Imagine what could happen if more people embraced their shadows. Instead of projecting their insecurities, fears, and shortcomings onto others, they would own them, heal them, and grow from them. This internal healing would lead to external change. Conflicts could be resolved more peacefully, misunderstandings could be cleared up more easily, and empathy would grow stronger. The world would move closer to collective enlightenment. This is the true power of shadow work. It's not just about personal growth. It's about using that growth to create a more conscious, compassionate, and connected world. When individuals heal and embrace their shadows, they don't just change themselves, they change the world around them. In the end, integrating your shadow isn't just an internal journey. It's a journey that impacts everyone you encounter. When you stop seeing your shadows as things to hide or suppress, you free yourself and the world from the limitations that come from living in denial. It's a path to greater understanding, deeper connections, and a world filled with more light because people are no longer hiding their darkness. As we come to the end, I offer you a challenge. Look inside yourself, not just at the things you're proud of, but also at the parts you've hidden away. Ask yourself, what is my shadow trying to show me? How can I use its lessons to be more true to who I really am? What small steps can I take today to begin this journey of understanding and accepting myself? Remember, this isn't something you do once and finish. It's a lifelong adventure, but every step you take brings you closer to becoming the person you're meant to be, a person with depth, purpose, and completeness. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to share your thoughts, feelings, and questions. What has this exploration of the shadow taught you? What ideas or insights have stuck with you the most? Your reflections could inspire someone else to begin their own journey. This isn't the end. It's the start of a new chapter, one where you accept all parts of who you are and confidently move forward into the life you're meant to live. Thank you for joining me on this path. I hope you find the courage, wisdom, and peace to keep exploring the depths of who you are. Thank you for being here.